And we're live. It is Thursday, September 3rd, 2015, 11 a.m. Pacific. And this is DB Hangout. Today, kind of the high-level theme is relax ops, just because it sounds like everyone's been having kind of a crazy time, and just kind of want to talk about, what kind of things are going on, and ways that you kind of decompress, and also just how you kind of stay ahead of the curve with all the crazy that happens. Because, for any DBA, any person that works regularly, you typically have a problem where there's a lot of manual work you got to do, and you got to find a way to automate it. And so we spent a lot of time over the past couple of sessions talking about automation. And so hoping to dive a little more into some of that today. Just reducing the ops work, how ops and DevOps are kind of viewed in your workplace and what it means. And then, just how you decompress and what things you do. So let's do a quick set of introductions. So I'm Jeff. I'm a DBA at Box. Do you want to go next, Sylvia?
Hello, I'm Sylvia. I'm the DBA at SendGrid.
Okay, and Daniel, whose audio might not be working yet, I'm not sure. So Daniel Van Eden, who I believe is still Booking.com, and hopefully he'll chime in while we're kind of going along. So yeah, let's kind of get this going. The first thing that came up was there's Daniel. Do you want to do a quick introduction?
Hello, I'm Daniel, and I'm working as a DBA for Booking.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the first topic that I guess we wanted to tackle today was how do ops people reduce the ops work? So, you have your database infrastructure, you have things you do on a day-to-day basis, and eventually your database infrastructure grows more and more, and you get to a point where you're just doing all these manual tasks all day, potentially. And so automation's the easy answer, but I guess just, what other approaches do you take? What things do you actually focus on kind of tackling first and kind of go from there? And so I guess I'd love to hear from Daniel and Sylvia first.
Yeah, so there's automation, both with things like Puppet, Chef, CF Engine, whatever, and also creating scripts, basic scripts, maybe some framework to combine multiple scripts. And I think another way is just giving other people the possibility to do things, like giving some developers the permissions to modify tables, see if that works. So just, empowering other people to do stuff is also a good way, I think.
I think that the things that have worked for me, like after a few years here, is maybe not going as far as giving access to change production, because that has historically not worked so well, but definitely empowering the developers has been a lot of help. Things like giving them, being able to provide a way for anybody in the organization to basically look at databases, to do read queries without being worried that they're going to affect production. Because if you start giving that sense, you can end up basically being the bottleneck. Everybody now feels has to come to me to ask questions. So I try my best to have in our internal wiki basically, hey, this is how you can get or read access to the database, and to expand on that, documenting as much as possible. And I'm the first to admit that I'm not very good at documentation. I'd like to think that I got better. But yeah, a lot of times when I've documented things, it's been, okay, this is the third time someone asked me that question. It's obviously not as clear as possible. I should make it more obvious, because if it's 3 to 4 people, then I'm not doing a good job making it available as an answer. The other big thing for me has been having a good project manager. She does an awesome job, basically, like protecting me from all sorts of squirrels running by.
All sorts of squirrels running by.
If you haven't watched Pixar Up, this will not make any sense. But
got it. So I wanted to echo. I mean, yeah, you both hit the points exactly. Automation is the easy answer. Puppet, Chef, get your config management going, set up scripts to do things, empowering your developers, and as Sylvia said, there might be situations where perhaps you can't, or maybe there's legal compliance reasons, or you actually just don't know if you can trust them to be cognizant of all the issues that might happen with some changes, also very possible. And so at the very least, yeah, getting away so that you don't have to run queries for developers just to see production data for debugging a problem or something. Like that's like one of the first things to get out of the way. And then documentation for sure. And I think more recently for my group at least, what we've observed is the lack of documentation is hurting us with new people coming into the team and ramping up, and the amount of time, just this large amount of tribal knowledge that we have to kind of impart on people. And so finding time just to sit and write down, here's the way we commonly, look at, figure out if a query is good or bad. Here's the ways that, here are the common gotchas and schema migrations that we want to, address. If it's not null, does it have a default value? Are the values sane? Things like that. And also things as simple as like copying a database from one machine to another. There are a lot of very common ways that people do it. A lot of folks probably use extra backup or maybe MySQL hot copy or even just a MySQL dump. But having like the prescribed method that you do it at your place. Like here we have a tool that wraps all of an extra backup, so you just MySQL clone a source and a destination, and it'll do all the work for you. So common things like that, and and I guess actually I want to dig on that a little more. Like some of these common processes you have to do, like rebuilding machines, changing replication. How do you manage those kinds of things? And actually, I'm going to take a quick pause. A new person just came in. So Jillian, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Oh. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi. I guess I don't have the title at the bottom. My name is Jillian Gunson. I'm a DBA at Okta. Yeah, and a long-time watcher, first-time joiner.
Sweet. We're happy to have you. So yeah, what I was just asking was, we talked about config management, documentation, and these kind of common things that you may automate or document to improve, how to reduce your ops workload. And so what I was more getting at are, for you at individual places, Jillian, Sylvia, Daniel, what are the things you focus on? Do you do automation around replication, moving, copying databases? Is it user management? Is it the schema migrations? Like, what is the worst thing that you have to focus on?
The worst thing, as in, like, what is the hardest to deal with? I mean, for me, actually, one thing I'm finding interesting. I worked as a consultant for a long time. This is my first time in 5 years, in shop as a DBA, and one thing I've found interesting is that the site operations guys have asked for runbook documentation on, like, if this alert happens, what to do. And so it's actually saved quite a bit of, being woken up in the night by just sort of having, just tell them, run this command, check what the response is, and go from there. For me, I guess I try to focus on, like, I guess how to make things easier not only for the DBAs but for the entire operations team. So I guess it means, like, better monitoring and trying to avoid noisy pages.
Yeah, and I would actually echo the same thing. We had a lot of these Nagios alerts in place when we were a much smaller shop, and now that we've gotten bigger, we have more infrastructure, it's just a lot more noise. And I think one of the most valuable things that we did, like, we have a network operations center team who usually triages a lot of the alerts and escalations that come up initially now, was writing runbooks that allow them to figure out, is this machine customer facing, is it a passive replica we could rotate in, or is it just like we just added it to a topology but it's not like in any sort of customer path in any way yet. And then based on those, like, what's the most critical? Like, if it's customer facing, probably just call the DBA, on-call DBA immediately. If it's just kind of replicating and not in config, downtime it, file a ticket, someone will get to it when they need it. If it's not in anything, if it's literally a newly kicked machine that is for some reason alerting, just downtime it and cut a ticket as well. It's not like high priority. Yeah, I'd love to hear, Sylvia and Daniel, like, what your perspective is. The top thing to document or something.
I think going back to the automation, I'm still definitely behind on, like, the spinning up of new machines is mostly manual still. So on the long list of things that I'm planning to work on. when we have more people helping. Um, yeah, documenting stuff has been very important. I think one of the challenges for me has been basically my on-call team is not part of SendGrid, so I have to make sure that when I communicate changes that it goes both ways, both for my internal team and for the team of consultants who actually take on-call for me. So that's been a bit of a challenge there. I try very hard to document now. One trick I've done there is to try and add the runbook documentation in our chef cookbook and to use Sensu's handlers, which is slightly superior in that regard to Nagios, where you can actually just put custom links in your notifications from it. So I've recently actually added basically like runbook on what's the alert and what does it mean in the GitHub repo that has the chef cookbook for these individual clusters, and basically from there put that link into the Sensu alert and hope from there that this will make it easier for people who are being paged or not me to actually get some more context on what's going on. That's been really useful, and especially during the day, since the pages still go also to our internal SRE team, for them to get a little bit like their feet a little wet into what our database alerts look like and what they mean.
Yeah, and I think we actually have a similar thing with our Nagios setup. I think there's like a note URL that you can attach to an alert, so that at least in the Nagios UI, you can have an icon that you can click to go to a runbook. And I think one of the other really interesting things was one of the SREs here put together a change so that Nagios could escalate into the chat room, and then it would automatically put the runbook link in with that as well. So yeah, definitely a similar thing here. And I think the last thing we added most recently was a wrapper around all of our MySQL alerts that actually tell you, like it prefixes the alert text with active dot cluster name dot role, is it a master or a read replica, or it's like no conf or passive. So that's very easy. Like if you get paged in the middle of the night, you can figure out, can this wait till morning, or do I need to like open up my laptop right now? But yeah, Dan, oh, go ahead, Jillian. Sorry.
Oh, I just unmuted because I was going to say something on that. Do you not have different sort of levels of paging? I mean, if it's a non-customer facing server or a slave or something like that, why should that wake anybody up?
So that's the thing, is it shouldn't. And I think part of the problem is our Nagios configuration here is a little archaic and overcomplicated. So modifying the config is very challenging, I'd actually say. And part of the problem is a lot of our alerts are still automatically attached to hosts with the same escalation policy that we had like 2 or 3 years ago when we were a much smaller shop. So a lot of the problems we have right now are just a matter of we need to go and refactor it. But it's kind of lower priority compared to some of the other initiatives we have ongoing. Like I think one of the big ones for us is we want to actually get Orchestrator set up so that replication reparenting is significantly easier than it is right now. And Daniel, you smiled when I said that, so I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, of course we have Orchestrator with a very good level of support also, and it's working really great. Recently we had to do some maintenance, and we basically lost 3 intermediate masters, and it was just like, okay, well, let Orchestrator handle it and continue with the next thing. So that's working quite well, and we are using Orchestrator for all kinds of different things, like moving slaves, but also giving people insight in how a replication topology looks like. And yeah, I really
That's
like
actually,
Orchestrator.
I forgot to mention that one. Like, thank you guys for open sourcing that. That has been, we used to have a very janky Perl script that visualizes the topology, and it was a real pain in the butt to actually manage it. It used Perl modules that aren't even around anymore, if I remember correctly. So one of the things I did within the last 6 months was actually grab Orchestrator. Thankfully, since then, Shlomi has added like things like read-only user ability and things like that. So I felt much safer deploying it and basically sharing the read-only creds with the entire org. And now anybody who's asking me, hey, is there lag? Hey, is what database is where? I can just easily link them to that from the runbook, and they go forth and find whatever they want to find. And it's been a big time saver. I'm still working on using Orchestrator for maintenances. It's awesome that it has so many hooks, but yeah, I need to find the time to write scripts to go around all the maintenance parts. But it's been very, very useful. It's saving me time in not having to verbally in chat like explain what clusters look like. It's so much easier to just send them to a link and they log in and to see a picture.
That's actually really funny because, because we don't have it set up yet, we've already built tools that display the topology in an ASCII format, and then we set it up so that it could be accessed from our chatbot living in our dev environment, just like in the same way. So anyone can go in our chat room and ping the chatbot and say, like, give me the replication topology for this machine, so that if they know what cluster or maybe a machine that they got alerted for, they can easily see it there as well. But I would love to have it like hook into Orchestrator, and just that'd be so much easier. And then all the hooks and everything, yeah. If you have a maintenance, you could probably just write a quick script that hits the API endpoints and makes all that go. But yeah, Jillian, are you guys running Orchestrator, or do you do like manual replication, parenting, and stuff right now?
Yeah, we haven't tried Orchestrator. It's manual, but I guess we haven't needed to repoint slaves. There is an automated process that we set up. There's a sort of a test slave creation process. I think it's an Ansible script. I'm not part of that, but just automatically takes EBS snapshots and creates a slave so that they can run changes and before the deploys and check that it doesn't break things. I'm in an interesting shop. Like Will Gunty was in DB Hangops some months ago. We're relatively new to have a DBA in team. I used to consult for Okta before I joined, so we have a fun time where we get to sort of decide how to run things as DBAs rather than as site operations people trying to do DBA work. So I don't know, Orchestrator is an idea, but I don't know, there is some decision making to be made that's not just the DBAs in order to put that in.
Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, I guess in that kind of environment, do you guys have full access to the environment that you need to work on, or do you actually have to go through your site operations group somehow?
We do have the same access that they do. I guess just if we were going to make any decisions about how to change the infrastructure and how to change app failover, that's not necessarily our what we have control over. So it would take some decision and some work, not just on our parts. So. I don't know. I'm finding it a nice, sort of interesting challenge, and also to see, how, developers and operations people like view database work, and how it might be different than how DBAs, see how to make changes. So yeah, it's been fun. And challenging, and I guess there is. I joined today because I thought Relax Ops was an interesting topic, because it is very, very hard to relax sometimes when you are part of an operations team.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I think we'll get to in the next 10 or 20 minutes. So did anyone have any other thoughts about reducing ops work, like things that you would focus on? Any other comments there? Seems very quiet. Okay, so I guess the next question then is, how is ops / DevOps kind of viewed in your workplace? Is there actually a difference? Are you in a DevOps model where there's not really the notion of an operator? Like, how's that look? Just kind of curious. Don't all jump at once.
I guess I'll go first. I think it's been only recently for us where we've actually wrapped our head around what DevOps really means, and that it's not just, hey, we're gonna just have some people give them that title and that's the DevOps team, while there are developers and sysadmins on the sidelines doing other things. We have worked pretty hard for the last, I think, about a year now, to basically have this co-ownership of our uptime and our performance. We started off by helping our developers learn a little bit of Chef. We've got to the point now where the developers write the Chef code for the applications that they are writing to. We've even given push access to them for all of their Chef code. It's just the same as they have it for their app code. So it's taken a long time, a lot of like education in both ways, and basically ops people sitting down with developers and to understand what the services are doing, so that when we get paid, we know what's going on, and to explain to them what things we look for to make maintainability and operational, like the operational tasks easier. So it's kind of gone back and forth. Going back to the database stuff specifically, I think like many other places, usually things start with, oh, the databases are paging us too much, let's hire a DBA. So unfortunately, that's how a lot of places start their DBA teams, and that doesn't lend itself initially to hey, let's treat the databases the same as we treat the rest of our infrastructure. Let's make sure it's automated. Let's make sure it's predictable, that kind of thing. But thankfully, like in our case at least, we got a long way getting it, as much as possible the same as the rest of our infrastructure. It's not 100% of the way there. For example, a lot of our stuff is virtualized, but I haven't virtualized most of the databases. But as far as management, we try our best where at least if I'm not around, someone can look at a cookbook or a Chef repo and figure out kind of what that database is supposed to look like. At least that's the hope.
Cool. And actually, Daniel, how about you guys? Because I know Booking.com, there's, just you, Jean-Francois, Shlomi, you all kind of like manage some software stack effectively. And I'm curious, like, what's the, is there a notion of an operator and a DevOps person, or is it all collapsed?
Well, it's mostly all DevOps, and the application is more like a different team. So there's a split between the people managing the production setup and managing the application. But even then, there's a lot of sharing both ways, because some developers can make schema changes. We can push application code if we need to. All kinds of share.
Okay. And yeah, I guess like for us right now, at least so kind of similar to what Sylvia was saying, where there's a lot of developer empowerment going on, and ensuring that basics around being able to deploy their application, manage it, access to the metrics, and the other key one is access to log data, so that they can actually, maybe they don't need to SSH to the machine, but as long as you have all those pieces of information available, they should actually be able to do everything they need to do. And a lot of our development organization has definitely taken ownership of the various services and components that are built to support our application, and are on top of, when an alert comes in, they're the first responder. They actually get the alert, and then they have to escalate to other teams based on what might be breaking down. And so for our team right now, the database operations group, we don't have that same level because we're a very shared resource. So if we have a problem, we impact a lot of people, and we can't necessarily send our pages out to like 1,000 different people based on how many, a replication stutter maybe causes some lag-sensitive applications to get upset. So I think that's something that, at least on the MySQL side, there's definitely a lot more evolution to happen there and move us towards a more, I almost want to call it a disposable infrastructure, where we can easily, if a machine goes bad, just throw it out and build a new one and start to make it more like a platform. And with our HBase infrastructure, that's definitely something we want to work towards, is really trying to build just a data platform, I think, so that developers can just access it, and we just promise we'll keep it up and going smoothly. So Daniel, were you going to say something, Daniel?
No, sorry.
You unmuted. I thought you were ready to jump in. Yeah, Jillian, how about you? Ops, DevOps, what's that look like?
Yeah, I guess we're a DevOps team. I guess because I was in tech support for a number of years and then consulting, that DevOps sort of showed up in the meantime, and it's been interesting for me to see how, like, there aren't sysadmins anymore, there are DevOps guys, and how a lot of it is the same job, but now there's more effort put into automation. In the team I'm in, I really like the people that I'm working with, and I'm trying to learn some of the work that they do, how to use their scripts, like, and see what pain points they have in terms of dealing with the databases, so that if I can do something that saves them time, that's sort of neat for me to work on, and also something new for me to learn. Sort of surrounding, understanding the databases. It's neat to be doing. I guess learning more about AWS, learning more about Chef. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we really are a DevOps shop. So.
Okay, cool. So I mean, anything else on DevOps, ops separations, collaboration breakdowns from anyone? It's a small group today. It's making this a little tough. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I guess the last thing, which was more or less the theme for today, was just kind of hash relax ops, and how do you decompress? How do you deal with the stuff? I mean, for Sylvia, I think you're the only DBA right now. Jillian, you're one of two with a growing company. Daniel, you're on a team of people that do a lot of development work with a large infrastructure. Curious, yeah, like, what are the stressors? What do you do when they happen? How do you, like, timing? All that kind of stuff.
Let's see. I think for me, especially like the last 8 months, I've recently in January moved from being in the office in California to being fully remote and 3 hours ahead of California, 2 hours ahead of my other teams in Colorado. So I think for me the biggest thing has been the time zone change. A lot of people were still not aware of it. We're large sprawl of a company. It grew very quickly, so a lot of people were not yet aware that I was on a different time zone. So I think the biggest thing for me was making sure to set expectations of when I was going to be available and when I was going to basically be done with the day, which is earlier than most. It definitely took huge support from my project manager and my team lead to basically be okay with me doing that, with like turning off chat notifications, turning off work email from the phone, so that my evenings are really my evenings, and that in that way, like if there's an actual emergency and they're calling me up, I know it's legit, and I know it's not going to be something that could have been dealt with the next day. That's probably been the biggest thing. It's been making sure to set the boundaries. At the end of the day, if we don't do that, like, I'm no use to anybody if I'm completely burned out and I can't deal with anything anymore because I'm on work chat 24/7 or something. So that's pretty important.
I'll jump in at once.
I'm in. I guess for me, following on what Sylvia was saying, I'm also working from home. This is my home, and it's interesting in several ways. I've sort of become this sort of person who's always on work chat. If I'm doing other things, I just keep it open. So if I see a problem, I'll jump in and deal with it, and it could be 10 o'clock at night. And the other issue with that is that you miss the meet space chat that goes on with your coworkers at the office, because my team isn't remote, but the 2 DBAs are. So we're going to be setting up I guess a computer for sort of video conferencing in order for people to be able to walk up to that computer and be able to chat with me and Will. We did have a telepresence robot for a while, and it was rather hilarious, and because it would shake and like fall over, and the battery would run out after 5 minutes, and so that was a bit of a failure and a bit pointless too, because you're spending too much time, trying to drive it around, and it doesn't even go that fast, so you can't like hit your coworkers with it. So we're about to start video and seeing how that goes. Yeah.
Actually, something I'd like to maybe in a couple minutes talk more about is just like managing remote work. But yeah, Daniel, how's this work for you? Are all the people at Booking like mostly remote, actually?
No, actually not. Most people come to the office. There are a few people who sometimes work from home. We have a few people working from other offices, but most people are working from the Amsterdam office. But we also have a DBA in Seattle, so he can take care of the other time zone, and some folks in Singapore, and that's working quite well. So how my day normally looks like is that I take the day shift, and in the end of the day I do a handover to the team in Seattle.
Okay, but so I guess the other thing though is, how do you decompress? Do you set boundaries? Actually, Daniel, do you actually go into the office in Amsterdam, or?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, so normally I work like 8 or 9 hours or so, and then I don't often get booked in the evening with calls, because we have people in Seattle. And if something happens, then there's probably something major going on, but that normally doesn't happen.
Okay. Yeah, and I think for us right now, we're not. I think we're all still in the same time zone with our database group, and so we have 2 people who are remote, but yeah, they're on the same time zone with us right now. I think one of them's in Arizona, and so they actually don't honor daylight savings or something. So at one point they might be an hour off, but yeah, managing the burnout.
Time zones are the worst.
Yeah, time zones are terrible. I think we've learned a lot of very interesting things with time zones. Like our monitoring system was Pacific time zone, so our NOC team is in Austin predominantly, and so when they look at graphs, it's always offset by 2 hours for them. So it's funny when people are like, yeah, you're working on an issue, and they're like, yeah, that problem that happened at 9 a.m., and you're like, what? And then you realize it was actually 2 hours earlier or something based on where they are, and having to figure that all out. But yeah, managing kind of managing your hours, making sure you're not overworking, turning off notifications is like a huge one. I think for me too, the big one is if you go on vacation, make sure you are not in the paging system unless you absolutely need to be. There's no reason to get alerts from your Nagios system or something while you're across the country or in some different time zone or just trying to enjoy yourself. And I think that's one of the first things that I do. The day that I'm about to go on vacation, untick the box so I don't get paged anymore because I don't need them. But the other one is also, focusing on improving the escalation policies around your alerts and fixing the runbooks to make them more robust. Because I think one of the problems, like I mentioned earlier, where our NOC team now, gets more of the alerts and is more upfront on them. But the big one was for things that would page that shouldn't be from old legacy alerts is going in, fixing them, filing tickets to say this is a noisy alert, it's not actionable most of the time, let's change the threshold or straight up get rid of it entirely. And then the other ones are, go home at a reasonable hour. If you come into the office at 8 o'clock, you should probably leave by 5 or 6. Don't stay too late if you don't have to. Things like that. And so I remember, earlier in my career and a lot of other people I've worked with, you'd get to the office at 8 or 9, you'd stay until 7, 8, 9, 10 at night, and you'd do it again. And it's one of those, we would have dinner delivered. You could order dinner and the company would pay for it. And so a lot of people would hang out until 7 o'clock when that would show up. And it's unless you stopped working, went to the gym or something, like you could get sucked into that trap very easily. So it's definitely something, manage your expectations and make sure everyone else knows about them too.
Yeah, when I was working remote, what I sometimes did was just start early on in the day, and like at noon, just take 2 hours off, go running, do something else, and then work till late again, and that worked quite well.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one is, you know, exercising really. Like I think for me right now, I try to bike to the office on weeks when I'm not on call, um, like as much as I can, just so that it's like a nice 30-40 minute bike. I leave at a reasonable time, go home, make your own dinner. Don't like wait for delivered food. Simple things like that to help kind of get away from it. Um, and actually, so something else I wanted to bring up. So Sylvia wrote this stellar blog post.
I wouldn't say stellar, but thank you.
Blog post on burnout. And so yeah, I'll throw this in the show notes. So a lot of the stuff that Sylvia had mentioned around turning off alerts and notifications on her phone and stuff, those are captured in here. But it's definitely worth a read to realize, like, are you in this kind of situation where you don't know that you're working too much and you actually are? Like actually, Sylvia, and it's one of those. What prompted writing this? Was it just you had to sit down one day and realize this was happening? Was there something going on that kind of kicked all this in?
Well, I mean, I realized that I've been cracking the joke of, oh, my free time for a while, and it's easy to be in the middle of it and not realize that this has been. I've been the only one in house. Yes, I mean, I still say in the blog post, like I had an awesome team of consultants helping me for most of my time here, but as maybe Jillian would probably understand now, is like it's still different. It's still not the same between having consultants where you can be very specific on what they can do and what they need, what you can offload to them, versus being in house and being the one owning all of this. So yeah, I think what made me realize that I wanted to write this is I had multiple one-on-ones with my team lead where every time I was like, oh, I'm so tired, like this week has sucked, and I've been saying that multiple times, and I realized that I was just context switching all the time. I was not being very good at protecting myself in the evenings. I was kind of slipping on making sure that the time zone difference didn't slip into my evenings with like my boundaries as personal time. I think a week after I posted this, I went on vacation for a week on a cruise, and I was completely offline, so that was awesome. So yeah, I think it was also probably part of it talking to a lot of people. We talk about burnout very openly in our team, which I think is awesome. A lot of companies don't really like to talk about that because they think that, oh, now everybody's going to want to go on vacation, we'll never get anything done. Our team, and especially our manager, I know this sounds like so cliche to be saying that, but they've actually been really open about, hey, like if you're starting to feel that you need a break, take the break. We try very hard not to let anybody be a single point of failure, any person, including myself. I'm less successful at it than the rest of the team, but they're very, very supportive. So yeah, that it was a general feeling of we're running very, very hard, and we need to all be aware of that, and we need to have each other's back, I think, was the most important thing. One of the people I thank at the end of this blog post is a coworker of mine, and after I posted it, I sent it to my team lead, and it helps to be open about that stuff, because trying to suck it up, probably not the best idea in the long run.
Yeah, and I think just you nailed it with, like, you want to eliminate the SPOFs, because if you are the SPOF, you can't go on vacation. You're going to get called, and just having like a nice cultural expectation around managing burnout. I mean, so it's a question I want to ask: how many of you have the like the unlimited paid time off at your company?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. Do you actually take vacation?
You know, my manager was really nice for me because I'd only started. I started full time in March, and right after the Bracona Live conference, I suddenly had to take some weeks off due to family issues, and I was just allowed to take them, and it wasn't, you know, and it was, you know, not even a month into the job, and it was just like, you know, just go and deal with your family stuff, and you know, come back when you can, and you know, outside of that policy of the unlimited vacation, I don't see that happening, you know. So I was very, I'm very impressed with having an employer who, you know, sort of cares about, you know, making sure that you have the time to you know, deal with personal issues, and you know, so that's, you know, that's not burnout, but that's another thing. You know, we do have our social lives and our families and our personal lives and health problems that, you know, and it's really important for employers nowadays to, you know, especially as, you know, IT isn't just you know, 20-year-olds anymore. It's, you know, we're all getting older, and you know, we can't just work constantly and not deal with family problems and our own problems.
Yeah, and I think that's the other big one is, you know, being able to, as a group or as a team, being able to, if someone does have a personal emergency, that they can step out. And I mean, yeah, that's been the big thing for us as well. We've had a lot of, not a lot's not a good word, but like, yeah, we've had people on our team over the past couple of years that they had to go in and out for family emergencies, personal emergencies, and, you know, being able to make sure that, you know, the team's not going to like catch on fire and burn while that one person's gone is, you know, super important. And just also, yeah, around the burnout and just decompression in general, like, you know, once every couple of years, my folks come out to visit, and you know, I want to be able to take a week off and go to wine country and go kind of do touristy stuff in the area with them, and not have like everything be hung up on me. And so having, you know, the expectation where you have enough people that are able to manage the workload and like kind of all the issues that are ongoing is very important. And so I feel like I have a very different perspective on this because I have such a large team compared to everyone else, I think. You know, Jillian, you're on a team of 2. Sylvia, you are the one. You know, and just
Not for long, but yeah.
Not for long. Oh, that's great to hear.
12 days, I think.
Oh, perfect. And so like things around that as well, like where you can, work can be handed off. You know, if there's a production issue, people can take care of it without you. You know, for the longest time on my team, you know, HBase was kind of the new technology that not everyone on the team was familiar with. And it's still one of those things where there's 2 or 3 of us. Like if three people on my team take vacation at the same time, there's not good HBase support outside of our development team. So that's like, you know, that's like the next hurdle is getting everyone ramped up on that and being comfortable with managing that and fixing that. So definitely. So I'm starting to run out of steam and out of things to talk about. If you guys have any other commentary or thoughts, please keep us going. We got another 15 minutes.
I did want to say.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I wanted to mention there is on burnout in general. It is sort of interesting to me that it's very subjective. I mean, not just, you know, what burns people out, but that you can work really hard and not get burned out, and then there are other times, you know, where you're working long hours and you do, and it's you know, and if you are sort of a workaholic, then it's hard to, you know, sort of set boundaries and make sure that you you know, don't burn yourself out in either case. But one thing I've thought about. I guess, you know, I consider myself a workaholic. I have friends who are prone to burning out, and we sort of decided that the point is not to be a workaholic. It is not to stop being a workaholic, but to find an employer who lets you be a workaholic but doesn't expect it of you, so that you can sort of set your own pace, but that they don't, you know, if you do tons of work one week, they don't expect that to continue indefinitely.
that's pretty much what I was going to say. It's like when it comes to managing burnout, our own responsibility is acknowledging it, but it's pretty hard to deal with it unless you have if you're working with a team that is supportive of dealing with it. So yeah, like that, and when it comes to like Jillian said, some people will work on certain things, and it'll be the work conditions that burn them out, not so much the hours as an absolute number. And I think it's one of the really, really good talks that I attended in June in Portland, and I linked to that in that blog post by Laura Thompson over in Mozilla, where they also have a lot of remote people, coincidentally. She does talk a lot about that. It's like, it's not just the hours, it's what are the people working on. And in the same blog post that I published, it's somewhere in there. Because those two talks by Laura Thompson, she gave that one in Mondarama, and she gave a follow-up one at Etsy in Codis Craft. And they were both basically oriented towards engineer happiness, but she's saying that because she's an engineering manager, but the same applies to us and to operations people. It's what are the things that increase happiness at work, and what are the things that will actually burn people out much faster. And it's very interesting how she enumerates those things and what people can do about them. I kind of wish we had any managers on the Hangout to give their perspective, but I guess we can always try that next time.
How about you, Daniel?
Well, I don't really have anything to add here. Okay, sorry.
Well, so I mean, have you hit a burnout situation? How do are there things you do to avoid burning out?
No, I didn't really have anything. I think I'm good enough at setting boundaries for myself. I had a couple of cases where there were some other people on the team which were reaching burnout, or which are having a burnout. Yeah, so I had to deal with other people, and I think the thing is that you make sure that it's something in which the team can discuss openly, and that really helps. And I think that worked well in most cases.
Okay. Yeah, and I really wanted to echo what you had said earlier, Jillian, around, it's okay to work a lot if you like doing it, as long as you don't, kill yourself doing it. And that's the thing, is not all work is created equal. Doing something like creating a new chef recipe, or setting up Orchestrator for the first time might be super engaging work and really exciting to do, versus, something like reparenting an existing replication, or rebuilding a machine, where it's more humdrum work, and you'd rather work on automating that, but you have to do that just to get it done. And so those are kind of the common things. And I think something else that's actually extremely important, we keep talking about having this expectation with your team to talk about it and make it clear, but even something like this, like a session like this, where we just kind of talk about as a group of people working in different parts of the organization, working in different companies, and how we manage things, and kind of horror stories and rants that you may have, and just kind of getting all that stuff out of your system too. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of times here that you're working, some really crappy schema change comes through or something, and so just having the outlet to be like, guys, please tell me I'm not completely crazy. Like, this looks terrible. So having venues like that, are also a very important thing. And the last one that I really wanted to hit on, actually, at least for me, that I find really engaging and exciting around this stuff too, is if there is a large project or a lot of work you've done and maybe you're starting to get a little burned out on it, just actually being able to talk about that at a conference or something. And being able to go, like for me, I love going to Percona Live and Oracle Open World and stuff, and being able to talk about my experience as a database administrator and the challenges that we have here, and how we solve some of the problems that we encounter. And just being able to share that, and actually, when you're in front of a group of people, seeing other people that are like, oh yeah, that I totally have that problem too. Yeah, oh, monitoring sucks sometimes. Yeah, totally. Things like that.
I had a lot of those cathartic moments in Portland, I admit. Sadly, I can't travel as much though, so it's limited for me.
Yeah. Maybe one related question. What about side projects? Because sometimes a side project is like partly work related, partly not, and then I think it's really hard to set a straight boundary.
That's a good one. We
That's a really
actually
good
have we actually what we do here in at SendGrid, and we've sort of not been doing that in the recent couple of months because we have a couple of really large projects to get out of the door. But typically in Ops, we have every other Friday is an Ops Dev Day, and we basically have a Google spreadsheet with suggested projects, and we would sign up for them and pair up on them. Orchestrator was actually begun in a dev day, but we decided, like, when I got the initial one set up in staging and showed it to people, it was like, okay, we need to have that for real. So that ended up becoming a real ticket on my queue, but it began in dev day. And other things that we've done in the team have started off that way and then became real projects. And it's been really cool seeing how, when we decided to start doing Dev Day, initially there was explicit direction, is like, you don't have to feel obliged for it to be work-related things. But we all made it so anyway, and it became the things that we kind of want to do. Like this, I want to look into this cool new database, or I want to look into this cool new Docker orchestration framework for other people on the team. And it becomes research spikes, or kind of looking into new stuff that gets us excited that we haven't had the time to put it up on the priority list in the normal work days. So that has been a nice way of kind of getting that outlet of, I want to work on something that, I want to work on that thing that's so cool, but on the usual days I don't have time for it yet.
Yeah, I actually want to hear about this from everyone. Daniel, since you brought it up, like side projects, how's that work with the day-to-day workflow?
Yeah, at Booking we have hackathons, and in each hackathon we either try something new, try to set up some new software project. For example, I tried the Etsy tool for I think it's called Morg, for managing outages reports. But also I work on a lot of small or bigger side projects in evenings, at other moments, and mostly they're not really work related, but sometimes there's quite a bit of overlap. So sometimes I spend some work hours on something which is more like a side project.
And I think same thing here, right? Hackathons are kind of one of those really big, nice things, and being able to say, like, a thing that you're really passionate about, being able to work on that. And the big one is having access to the work resources to do it potentially. Yeah, we also, a while back, we used to do a thing here called Automation Club. It's not so much attended now because people, like to manage their hours and go home at a reasonable time. But we used to say, like, once a week or once every 2 weeks, park in a conference room for 4 hours and just hack on something. And so I think that was kind of a good thing at the time, and it was fun to do, and we definitely built a lot of cool tools around visualizing things and stuff like that. But it's definitely maybe having a Friday once a week or once a month where you can just kind of hack on anything you want and not have to worry about the other things you have is equally valuable, and being able to get time out of your day to work on stuff like that. So I definitely agree. I was going to, Jillian, you're the only one that didn't chime in. I'm curious, do you have any notion of this right now, or is this kind of still, I guess, a fresh thing for you guys?
Well, as a company, we do have, I think, quarterly hackathons. I have not been able to participate yet. I am hoping to try to coordinate a trip to San Francisco and join in on the fun. As for any open source projects, honestly, I'm sort of one of those, I guess I feel like I'm one of the few MySQL DBAs who doesn't currently work on any side projects outside of work. I mean, on my own time I will, sort of try things on my computer and read up on, the latest blog entries, but honestly I find it hard to find the time and the energy if I'm, on call a lot, and there's family to visit, and there's things to do, and I guess it's sort of like I'll get maybe a few weeks here and there where I'll sort of have the time to work on something, but it's not regular like it is it seems to me for a lot of other people who are always working on interesting things and blogging about them.
In all fairness, sometimes you just don't want to touch a computer because you've been doing that all day.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. I'll actually occasionally have weekends where we don't really have plans, and I don't know, it's just me and the kid. My husband's at work or something, and I'll still just leave the laptop in the office and just go away. And that's another thing that's been really useful when I went remote, is that I have a dedicated office room. So it's if I really want to detach, I will detach, and just the laptop is not next to me, and it's just the iPad, and there's nothing work related on it, and it's a nice separation. But I'm actually like Jillian. Like I think the only times I've worked on stuff that is close to work but not technically in work hours has been like those dev days, which it's a work day, but we dedicated it to like not the usual backlog, or hackathons. But unfortunately, this is the last one in our company. Yeah, evenings and weekends, not so much. I guess part of it is being a parent too. So yeah, I definitely like with Jillian on that one. I don't have the energy to be messing with technology on the evenings or the weekends. I'd rather just watch a movie.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. So the last question I want to pose is, I don't know, what's the hobby or thing you do to just completely decompress?
Sleep.
Come on, you can do better than sleep. Everyone sleeps.
I don't know, man. You see me tweet about insomnia all the time. For me, it's been like, yeah, just veg out at home with my daughter. Maybe like she's at an age now where I can start watching movies with her and not be completely bored out of my mind. So, you know, relaxing things like that where I don't have to think a whole lot.
Okay. How about you, Daniel?
I mean,
Oh, sorry.
Well, for me, it's like going dancing, going to music festivals, to concerts, yeah, things like that.
To give a better answer than sleep, though, I see sleep as a competitive hobby. But honestly, working from home, anything that gets me out of the house and away from a computer, or at least a work computer, is what I sort of aim for. So, you know, going out with friends. Tomorrow I'm going to the PNE, which is a annual fair that happens here in Vancouver, and so I'll be eating lots of horrible deep fried foods and probably get sick, and then Hall & Oates are playing that evening, so it'll be great.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same, like getting out of the apartment or doing something completely unrelated. Recently I started playing video games with some friends. I haven't done online gaming in a long time. I think the other one is my girlfriend and I are making a strawberry wine right now, so checking on that. And then we have a dog, so he needs to get exercise once in a while, maybe. So going to, I'm going to be one of these crazy people, going to corgi meetups where you have like 40 corgis in a small dog park. Yeah.
Well, today I learned something.
There you go. So yeah, all right. I think that's all the time we've got for this week. So again, thanks very much to all of you that were able to make it today and talk about our experiences and whatnot. And yeah, I will be doing this again in 2 weeks. I don't know if we'll be doing Relax Ops again in 2 weeks, but if you have ideas, topics, or suggestions that you want to talk about, I have kind of a running list of things that are a little more involved and I need more coordination. So if you have other short or quick things, definitely let me know. And with that, I think we're wrapped this week. So thank you very much.